Welcome, LA Progressive friends, family, readers. I am really excited about sitting down and talking to Eric Mann today. So, Eric Mann is a veteran of the Congress of Racial Equality and the Newark Community Union Project, where he worked closely with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. His story is on the Civil Rights Movement Veterans website, which is crmvet.org. He is presently director of the Labor Community Strategy Center in South Central Los Angeles, working at the Strategy and Soul Movement Center. He and Channing Martinez co-host Voices from the Frontlines, your national movement building show on KPFK Pacifica in Los Angeles. He's the author of Playbook by Progressives, the 16 Qualities of the Successful Organizer. And he welcomes comments at eric@voicesfromthefrontlines.com. Welcome, Eric Mann.
Thank you, Sharon. Our New York accents love each other.
That's right. He's from Brooklyn and I'm from the Bronx. So
yeah, let's hear it.
So Eric is going to be talking to us today. He has published an article that we're carrying on the LA Progressive. We're so fortunate to have writers like Eric. His article is called "The Palestinian Resistance is Working," and I'm so excited to talk to him about his notion that the Palestinian Resistance movement is working, because we need to hear positive things like that. So Eric, why don't you take it away and tell us about this piece that you've written?
Well, thanks, Sharon. You know, just to say one thing, that you and Dick play a really critical role in the city. You know, we have a lot of mutual appreciation. I'm happy to say my new title is co-director, because Channing and I are now co-directors of the Strategy Center. You've known us for so long, and me and Channing are always you and Dick and me and Channing. So, you know, Channing and I, my wife Mann was saying when I listen to you guys on the radio, I think you're in some kind of relationship together because how you talk to each other, which we are. Okay, so let me say the full name, though, of the article that I wrote. So it's called "The Palestinian Resistance is Winning. The movement must stand up to Benjamin Netanyahu's plan for the final solution to the Palestine question." So there's two parts to it. I'm going to focus first on what's exactly, so I want to say several things. I want to explain, what does this final solution mean for a lot of Jews and people around this time? We knew that was Hitler's final solution to the Jews. Secondly, I want to talk about, so people more understand the concept of genocide. I think it's either not used or thrown around. And there's a real science to this that I want to talk about, because what's happening now is not just genocide, which is always has been against Palestine, but now it's the worst form, where they wipe out the people altogether. The next thing I want to talk about a little bit is the Black-Jewish connection, which I think is very important. And I think during the 60s, there was a lot of Black and Jewish people who went down south, of course, mainly Black. But 1,000 Jews went down. 1,000 white people went down, 500 of whom were Jews, even though we're only 3% of the population. That was not random, needless to say. Why have Blacks and Jews always been so close? And why does the Israel lobby try to call it anti-Semitic Blacks and self-hating Jews, right? To get us against each other and discredit all the people that support Palestine. So if you support Palestine, you're an anti-Semitic Black person or a self-hating Jew. And I say, no, we are self-respecting civil rights organizers. And the final thing, I'm going to go back to each one, is I think our greatest opportunity is the presidential elections, which is starting now. And I think even those people that want to work with Joe Biden, and it's going to test your stomach, I think we have to right now not focus on Trump versus Biden, but focus on Palestine and Black people and see how they line up. So that's sort of where I want to go, Sharon. I'm sort of laying out the sort of bullets of my article. And where should we go from here?
Right. So is that a question that you're asking me? Because I could
Yeah.
Yeah, great, great. So, for people who, let's say, were born in the 60s and afterwards, they're not so clear on what happened. I mean, even I have a vague memory of the 1967 war.
Right.
And of course, I was a child, I wasn't even in double digits yet. And so, for those people, which is the vast majority of us, sadly, your age and older, there are lesser and lesser of you guys. So let's give a little bit of a background of what happened and why it was after the Holocaust that Palestine was chosen, and chosen by whom?
Yeah, that's great. And of course, uh, the 100-Year War Against Palestine is a great book. So let me tell you what we understood. Um, Back in the 60s, we knew this history. So let me tell you a little history. Um, First of all, Zionism, for a long time, was not a popular point of view at all in the Jewish community internationally. The idea of having a Jewish state is not what any Jews wanted. Jews wanted socialism. They wanted to, they were communists and socialists and liberals, a very liberal, decent culture. We wanted to live on, as an oppressed people. We had a great empathy for other oppressed people. That's why we tended to become socialist, communist, or work in the black movement. But Zionism is a tiny little philosophy with a guy named Theodore Herzl in the 1880s. They're trying to figure out, well, how can we get a Jewish homeland for the Jewish people? And they kept lobbying. They realized that the only way we can get one is from the colonial powers that think they own other people's land. So since the colonial powers control Palestine, for instance, you're not going to get it from the Palestinians, you get it from the British. So they organized, and finally in 1914, the Rothschilds, a very wealthy banking group, they convinced the British government for the so-called Balfour Declaration that said they're going to be a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Well, there's only one problem. The Jews had no right to Palestine because it was the Palestinian people. So what happened? Real quick, they began systematic Jewish settlements in Palestine. Jews would go there with a conscious effort to be settlers, conscious efforts to, knowing all along their goal was to get rid of the Palestinian people. They bought land, they had money from the Rothschilds, they tricked a lot of Palestinian people. Some of them even got along with the Palestinians for a while, but all along their intention was to get this Jewish state. So after the Holocaust, my view is, why didn't we ask for part of Germany? That's, if you wanted somebody's land, take it from Germany, who killed 6 million people. Why didn't they share? Because the Zionists were imperialists. So they were not going to go against Germany, which was the United States wanted Germany, but they convinced the world that now was the time for a Jewish state in Palestine. So by 1947, they win the Jewish state, already given land that was not theirs, and their immediate plan, they knew, was to get rid of all the people in Palestine. So in 47, you have what's called the Nakba, which was a mass Israeli military force that drove out 700,000 Palestinian people, dispersed them. So right away, they split the Palestinian community almost in half, dispersed them into other Arab countries, and then systematically, and that's why I write about the article. So first was the Nakba. No, first was the settlers coming in. Then was the Nakba. Then, in the Six-Day War, they took advantage of that to basically control Gaza. And then they made Gaza into an outdoor concentration camp. The West Bank, they're also putting settlements in there. So let's be very clear. The Israeli mind is a genocidal mind from the beginning. Just like when the Spanish came to the Americas, They came to wipe out the original Annapolis because the theory of genocide is we are a superior people, and therefore we have no obligation to the people in the land. We then, this is we, not me speaking, they denigrate the culture of the oppressed, and that's the justification to kill them.
So
So
let's,
that's the background. That's the background that gets us to this horrible situation today.
so let me see if I've got this right. So there was a Holocaust. The Nazis almost exterminated all of the Jews who were in Europe at that time, who were in Germany, who were in Poland. The vast Polish
right.
Jews almost don't exist at all.
That's right. 90% were killed.
Yes. And as a result of that, then the Palestinians are the ones who pay the price. Palestinians
right.
who had absolutely nothing to do with this.
That's right.
And the Palestinians are still paying the price. So there are Palestinians, in theory and probably in reality, who are like 88 in their mid 80s, who might still have a key to a home that they were ousted from and they can't return to. They have no right of return.
That's right.
Because of what happened in the Holocaust. I get it. Okay, go ahead. Please continue.
No, I think that's very beautiful because the idea that they have a key to a home, the Labor Community Strategy Center and me, and as I was saying in my article, Sharon, all of us in the civil rights movement for Palestine, everyone saw Israel and the United States and South Africa for what they were. White settler states, white Christian and white Jewish settler states, who had no right to exist, which is why Israel says you must protect our right to exist. Otherwise, it's genocide against the Jews. And I would say the Jewish residents of Israel have a right to exist, but not in Israel. It's time to leave and give the country back to the people who have been there for 2,000 years. So one of the things I want to talk about now is I want to talk about, if it's okay, a little bit about genocide. Because, I'm sorry, I did have one more point I was trying to make, which is we knew this history in the 60s. And part of what's happening is because we're in a big counter-revolution, the history of SNCC has been lost, the history of CORE, the history of, nobody knows Dr. King. The stereotypes of, oh, King was this and Malcolm was this. You don't know. You don't know. We were all on the same side. And the Jews, we were Jews, we were kids who, grew up, a lot of us in the suburbs, the white suburbs. Our parents had been through our grandparents had been through the Holocaust, a lot of our family members have been through. We look at the suburbs, it is not where we want to be. The civil rights, the students come out of the lunch counters, and we go, this is great, I want to be part of this. And they say, come on in, we need you. We need you. Put your body on the line. So when I joined the Congress of Racial Equality, my job description was, do you want to put your body on the line? And I said, well, I'm not signing. Yeah, I know that's what you guys do. So we loved Palestine. We loved the Africans. We were third world business. Okay, so today, I want to know how we think the hope is and why I think Palestine is winning. Okay, because that's important. Sharon, when I was involved in the anti-war movement, when I first understood what the United States was doing in Vietnam, I was so sick I could almost not move. I mean, saturation bombings, Agent Orange, napalm, mass assassinations. And I was in the anti-war movement out of outrage. But then somebody gave me this book called Vietnam Will Win by Wilfred Burchett, who's an Australian communist. I said, oh, come on, they're not going to win. I mean, that's what I felt. I felt like we have to stop it, but we have no hope. And the book said, this is a national liberation struggle. They know what they're doing. And they're going to wait out the United States. There are going to be enough contradictions inside the Western world And sure enough, in 1975, the Vietnamese people got their country back. So let's look at today, because that's not on the horizon. So where's the hope, is what I always say, when I'm trying to wake up in the morning. The first hope is that the International Criminal Court convicted Israel of genocide. And the South Africans, thank God, took them to court and won. That's important, because the United States and England and Israel said to the court, there's no even basis for these charges. So the court overruled the United States, England, and Israel. Does that stop the murders that are going to go on right now in Rafah? No, it isn't. But people around the world no longer have a sympathetic view of poor Israel, surrounded by Arab people. No, I mean, let's be honest. Now everybody says, all right, they're carrying out genocide. That's a big difference, because in organizing, whoever wins the moral argument wins the war. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
But the minute the Black movement said to white America, you're the problem, we had a chance. And now notice that white America is all for Trump, and the rest of them are for Biden, and most of them are not very good either. All right. So now the next thing that's positive. So the first thing I'm saying is Israel was convicted in what's called a temporary ruling. They didn't say you're carrying a complete genocide, but they said what you're doing is genocidal. Pretty good. The next thing that's happening is that Hamas. Every time there's poor Palestinians and everybody's locked up and stopped, and now people are going, that damn Hamas or that great Hamas, and everybody's debating Hamas. So when you go to CNN, I want you to listen to this. Notice they don't call it the Israeli-Palestinian war, because that would say, wait a minute, the Palestinians are real people. They call it the Israel-Hamas war. So at first I was upset about it. I said, no, this is very good. It's like if everybody says strategy center, SNCC, CORE, Dr. King, Malcolm, get my name right. So everybody in the United States knows Hamas. And now you're debating, who the hell is this Hamas? And Israel says, those are the people that killed 1,400 people in Israel, which they did. And that's why we have a right to kill so far 29,000 people, to kill 10,000 children, to bring troops into Palestine and Gaza with the intention of just wiping out everybody. People have no water, post-traumatic stress disorder. People are saying, you pushed me into the part of, you drove me out into this other part of Gaza, and now you're coming to get us. So Israel is losing the moral argument, and I'm terrified of what's going to happen. But here's another positive. So the first I'm saying is Israel lost in the courts. The second is Hamas is a very popular force all over the third world. It's a popular force in the Arab communities in the United States, who have been forced to say, I'm American, don't worry, I'm not with those Arabs. And now they're saying, well, actually I am. So when Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib stand up, they have a lot of guts. Next thing I think is very important is that the movement is great. There's big protests now. For years, there's been protests about Palestine. They've been very kind of weak, Sharon. Everybody doing the very best they can. Well, you mean like these vigils in Santa Monica? Now people are going out into the streets and saying, oh no, I'm not doing a vigil in Santa Monica with all due respect. I'm going to down the streets in New York and so forth. So there's militancy there. And then the last thing I'd say is that, not speaking for the Palestinian people, I've been told by almost every Palestinian, this is one of the happiest moments of my life.
Really?
We finally paid those people back. We finally fought back. We put something in their face. Now let them deal with some suffering and let them begin to understand what we've went through. None of these, and one more thing, the elections of 2024, I want to come back to that in a minute, offer a lot of hope. So when you read history, the reason I read history a lot is because my heart breaks for what the country is doing to Black people today, Latin people today, Arabs today, what the United States is doing all over the world. But history gives me confidence that in the long term, I don't believe that whatever the thing bends towards justice, I don't believe that. I believe in the long term, the revolutionaries are.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.